Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris Quinn with my co-host,
Dominic DiTolla.
And we're here just talking sports. This episode, we're going to talk about the soccer player Johan Cruyff.
Yes, I always love these soccer episodes because I go in with a completely blank slate and then just become overwhelmingly fascinated by these guys' stories because Chris knows who they are, so I'm just like, well, if he picked them, they're probably pretty cool.
Yeah, but this one had a bunch of stuff that I didn't know about him, which is why we love doing this research, why we hope you guys love this podcast. Just the little intricate things that happen behind the scenes. I love it.
Absolutely. No, and this was definitely a good subject for soccer.
Johan was born April 25th, 1947, right outside of the Amsterdam, the Ajax Stadium.
Yeah, in East Amsterdam. He grew up there, was born and raised there, and, basically grew up next to his future profession.
Yeah, I love that because he grew up literally like down the street, and his mom was like a washerwoman for him, and his dad was like a groundskeeper kind of guy. Or
his stepdad was.
His stepdad, yes.
Yeah. Because Johan's dad died when he was around 12 years old.
Yeah.
And he kind of had a realization that, like, okay, I'm really good at soccer. My dad couldn't get the medical care he needed because they didn't have enough money. He's like, I'm going to do everything in my power to find a way. And if soccer's the way to do it, I'm going to do it so that doesn't happen to me, because he had like a similar heart condition.
Yeah, he actually had it at the exact same age, which we'll bring back later. Mm-hmm. But he starts playing in the Ajax youth team, and they pretty much immediately see his talent. So,
yeah, it's pretty evident.
Yeah. A lot of the time you're given what's called like a trial or like a tryout period.
Yeah.
And he actually wasn't given that. They pretty much just promoted him to the first team.
Yeah, and he had credits going to the stadium every day to see his mom and his stepdad, and he said he was never in awe of any of the players, no matter how young he was, just because it was second nature to him. He had seen all of that stuff that may intimidate a younger player.
And at this time, they would need like bodies. So like he was a young guy, and in the first team practice, they'd be like, oh, we're going to play, 6-on-6 and we're missing somebody. You want to join in? And he would just start playing with them. So he was like
on the scout team as like a young teenager.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
And I found it interesting that he was apparently a decent baseball player.
Okay. So this is where I wanted to go next. Was he gets this idea in his head about how every player on the field should be able to play every position and understand it.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into that later. It's fucking brilliant.
Well, he says that it didn't originate from soccer. It originated from him playing catcher and baseball and seeing the entire field and being like, why can't I do this in soccer and control a game like a catcher and know what everybody's kind of doing?
Yeah, and usually they say catchers are the smartest players on the field in baseball because they see everything. They're the only player kind of with that perspective to, you're the one working with the pitcher.
Yes. Yes, and you see the whole field. That was the big thing that he was like, why can't we do this with soccer? So he gets promoted to the Ajax first team 64, and starts playing 65 and turns the team around
completely around, and
such a way.
He's like Lazarus at affecting teams.
Yes.
Or like Jesus with Lazarus, just rising from the dead.
It's actually interesting. He was the second professional player that Ajax ever signed. So this is the era in which professionals are starting to be signed. They're not semi-professionals. They're not like woodworkers and soccer players. You know what I mean? So he's actually the second professional that they signed. And in his first year, he had 25 goals in 23 games, which is...
That's insane. It's 1965, so he's 18 playing against grown-ass men.
Yes, and dominating. And they say that his huge attribute right off the bat was he's able to do things at speed.
Yes, I noticed that too, almost kind of like Messi.
Yes, exactly.
Like just the way that his feet move and just the way he can make cuts. That's what makes good wide receivers, is the way that they can control their speed but they can turn it on and off like that.
And almost little feints that you almost don't see unless you're like right up in this face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and we'll get back into Messi later. That's a great one because it comes back around. But he is so dominant in this Ajax team that really turns around. They weren't a great team. They were middle of the league. Yeah. And then they go on to win 3 consecutive titles.
Which is crazy to think that a team that not good could make that type of strides with one guy.
With one guy.
One guy.
Yeah, one guy. And he said it, him and this other player were really trying to push this philosophy of total football, which is his,
and the coach too.
Yes. Yeah. I forget what the coach's name is, Mikos.
Yeah.
Who they have like kind of a rocky relationship, but he said he was the backbone of this, seeing that these players can play any position and letting them be more free. The freedom started to come out.
Because I have your back, you have mine. It's almost like a zone defense or a zone blitz where you just switch guys in and out as far as what they're doing on a specific play.
It's very much like a zone and a trust that you have in your fellow players that I don't think was there before.
No, but it created an exciting brand of soccer.
Yep. Yeah. So they did 3 consecutive titles. They also did the double. With anybody knows that's winning pretty much every competition in your league. They did it in 67 and in 69. So just a great team. So I want to talk about him coming back to. So he got injured in like 69.
Yeah.
And he came back and decided not to wear the number 9.
Yeah, he wanted to switch his number because in soccer, only 1 to 11 was used.
Only 1 to 11, and it was also used for your position.
Yeah.
So
it's like baseball when they started numbering players.
It was like baseball when they started numbering, and he thought that this was so wrong because it kind of put players in their place. Like, hey, you're a number 9, you're a striker.
Yeah, it defeats the purpose of the free-flowing soccer that he wanted to play.
Exactly. So he comes back and he's wearing number 14, and people are like, saying that it's disgraceful. This is how crazy it is at that time. Is they're saying that he's kind of like taking the piss out of the game and not giving it the respect that deserves. And then he's over here being like, I'm trying to make this game
respect. It's a number. He should have worn 69 to piss you assholes off more.
Exactly. But he's like, I'm trying to revolutionize this game. I'm trying to change this game. And just this little number change was one of these things that that did it, you know?
Yeah, no, he was his own soccer player, that's for damn sure. Because I saw in 71, while he was with Ajax, they won the European Cup.
Yes, and this is when, I was going to say 71, 72, they start beating these really European teams. They actually win 3 European titles. There was actually 2 different ones at the time. But they beat the Rangers in 72, and they beat who did they beat? Juventus in 73. And when they beat Juventus in 73, they talk about the end of that game as like the 20 minutes of the best football you'll ever see.
Cool.
Johan Cruyff doing this move that he revolutionizes.
Oh, the World Cup one. Yeah.
But I think it's called the Cruyff turn.
Cruyff turn, yeah.
It's like a feint, but if you see it now, you'll see it like players do it so much.
Yeah, but to be able to do that with your feet and be like the first guy to do it, it's almost like Rodney Mullen.
Yeah. I was thinking of Rodney Mullen because he revolutionizes the way that the game's played and then later revolutionizes the way that it's coached.
Oh, most definitely. And Rinus Michels is the coach's name.
Rinus Michels, yeah.
Total football. But in 73, he ends up moving on from Ajax.
Well, let's talk about this. So the first player to become a professional, his name is Kaiser. I forget what his first name is. They're pretty much best friends throughout coming up. Like he pretty much took Johan under his wing and kind of taught him about, or they really were talking about total football and what that is.
Yeah.
In the summer of 73, the Ajax locker room decides to have a vote on who they think the captain of the team will be.
Okay.
Johan has been the captain since he was like 20.
Yeah.
He says, hey, if you guys are going to vote, I'm just going to leave because it's obvious that you don't want me as captain.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about his personality being very abrasive.
Yeah, he seemed like a very to-the-point guy.
Yes,
like
100%.
No bullshit, just across the board.
And this is, in this era, this is the time where we see semi-professionals becoming professionals, and he is not giving guys any leeway. He expects everybody to be at a top professional level.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, we don't give a shit how good you are. We want you out because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Which totally sucks.
And he said that his friend, he was kind of felt betrayed because he put his name up for the captaincy.
Oh no, what a douche.
Yeah. So this all happens, and he pretty much goes to his agent and he's like, hey, find me a new club.
Right.
And luckily,
he goes to a perfect club.
The perfect club, which is it's such a crazy thing. He gets sold to Barcelona for €6 million, which was a shit ton of money back then.
Well, I mean, I don't think they had the euro back in those days.
Oh no, you're right. But
it's
that's
the
what
equivalent of.
Yes,
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it was because I think they bought them in Dutch.
Oh, the Dutch money.
The Dutch money, yes.
Yeah, Dutch money.
Yes.
I think Spanish is pesetas at the time. But
but I don't think they were, you know what I mean? They had to exchange
the Dutch money.
Yeah, whatever the Dutch were
Chocolate
buying.
or clogs,
Exactly.
bartering system. It's not nice, but that's okay.
But he comes to Barcelona and changes everything.
Oh, he totally does. He comes in there like a bat out of hell. And Barcelona is not what people think of them today as.
Oh, they were awful. So since the 60s, I think that was the last time they had won a La Liga title, was 1960. And I want to talk about him coming in real quick because in Spain, they have a fascist president at the time.
It's Franco. It was what I was talking about with Messi, dude.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So they have Franco in there, and a lot of people are talking shit that he goes and is playing in this La Liga, and he is confused by this because
he doesn't
feels
understand.
he feels like this doesn't have anything to do with me. And in retrospect, he talks about he understands now the political value that football had on these.
Yeah, and he's going to the team that opposes Franco the most.
Exactly.
In the region that opposes Franco the most and always historically did, in Catalonia.
So people were saying what a political move this was, and he was like, I didn't get that at the time. Right. And first time they play Real Madrid, they crush them 5-0.
And Real Madrid is Franco's team.
Franco's like, he puts money into the team.
Yeah.
Like he's their team. And they say that Johan Cruyff did for the Catalonia political system in that 90 minutes more than politicians had done in the past decade. And it's such a great...
That's awesome about sports sometimes.
Well, that's when he started to realize what this was.
Yeah, and he named his son Jordi a Catalonian name.
Yes.
Like a common Catalonian name, who was born in Spain. Yeah.
Well, there's another story where they tried to tell him that he couldn't name him Jordi.
Yeah.
And he threw a fit and said he actually probably wouldn't have been able to if he wasn't so famous.
Oh, easily not if he were just like a run-of-the-mill player.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Just want to take a quick break to let you know that our Sports Experience podcast is brought to you by Engle Studio here, and they're here in Tucson for all your recording needs.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love that little backstory where he kind of changes the political environment of Spain.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. And they keep winning with him in their lineup.
Oh, he changes the mentality of Barcelona. That's what they say. He pretty much comes in, he's like, we're winning everything.
Yeah. Like, you don't want to win, get the hell out of here.
Yep.
And they win. He was 1974's Footballer of the Year. I mean, winning La Liga titles his first year and multiple years while he's there. He had 53 goals in 48 games.
Yep. The goal scoring record that he had, people didn't think was going to be broken, and then got broken by Messi and Ronaldo, but he was such a prolific goal scorer in a time where goal scoring wasn't a big thing.
No.
Games were ending 1-0, 0-0, 2-1.
My favorite kind of soccer.
Exactly. He came in and was like, we need to be crushing these teams 5-0. And people are like, oh, okay, I guess. Like,
the more goals, the better, I guess.
Yes, that was definitely his take on it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's killing it in Barcelona, and we go into this Dutch dream team, and you love
the nickname for them because instead of the red, white, and blue for their flag, the Dutch teams, whenever they compete in sports, always were orange. But they called their team name the Clockwork Orange, which I find fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's a great team name for that, especially because that's not a great book to
not at all
to associate yourself with, but they did.
Yeah, and they made their mark for sure.
So in 74, they traveled to Germany and
West Germany at the time,
West Germany, and pretty much right off the bat established that they're the best team.
Yeah, and they're the most fun team to watch because they're playing this total football.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it really is from top to bottom in the Dutch makeup of their team where everybody really is that much, like everybody in their position is that much better than everybody else on the opposite team.
And they can play multiple positions if need be, which, leads them to just running through teams.
It's actually interesting. The 1970 Brazilian coach came out and said that the only time in soccer that I ever saw a team be completely different than everybody else was the 74 Dutch team. And they were just like a decade ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, no, and they had beat Brazil on the way to the final.
Yep.
And they play with the host country, West Germany, and things are looking good kind of right off the bat for them.
Yes, and there's some controversy with this game, and there was also, back then there was kind of controversy with the way they laid it out, so I think the final was like 3 days after the semifinal, which was not right.
Yeah.
And they were celebrating beating Brazil because Brazil was the returning champions as like that was the win. And he said in the locker room, they had the wrong mentality.
Yeah.
Like they had already won.
Yeah. You still got one more to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Germany has a great defender at this time. Beckenbauer.
Yeah. He was involved in because I was there at the time. The year before, but he was like the main guy that ran the 2006 World Cup.
Yep.
He was like the face stamp on that. He's like super famous in Germany. He's like Hasselhoff level in Germany.
Yes. And he was a defender that was essentially doing what Johan Cruyff was doing as an offender. So he was like their one piece that help them win. They got a pretty kind of a controversial penalty.
Yeah, they had the penalty kick because the Dutch got the penalty kick first, and they went ahead 1-0 or 0 or whatever they call it. And the Germans ended up coming back like right before halftime, or is it halftime?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, all right. But yeah, and then they ended up scoring 2 goals.
Yeah, which it sucks because people talk about if they played 10 games, the Dutch would win 9 of them.
Yeah.
That's the kind of...
It's the one-game format, though. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. That's true. That's why I kind of like it. Also, Germany playing at home and, you know, all this shit. This is where the Dutch team, and everybody says it, this is their golden era.
It really is.
Best players. This 74, 78, and then kind of again in 82, but we'll get into that.
Even players now remember that team like that. That was the golden era.
Yes, definitely. Even the
football in Holland.
Yeah, the 2006-10 teams weren't anywhere near them with Van Persie and Robin, but that's what we see is he is really a great facilitator in these teams.
He's almost like Jason Kidd.
Yes, to put his system in play.
Yeah, and he has a system. Like no players probably had a system in their heads of how the game should be played, but
exactly.
His soccer IQ is just through the roof.
So in 75, he retires from Barcelona.
Yeah.
I think this is really interesting because he says one of the biggest mistakes was retiring at 31.
Yes, he has. Yeah, I read that.
Because at the time, everybody was retiring at 31.
Yeah.
They weren't in the best physical condition, all of that stuff.
And he was a smoker too.
He smoked his whole life.
Yeah.
He smoked like a pack and a half every day, his whole life. Like, it's crazy.
I can't even imagine that. Sounds horrible.
So he retires and loses all of his money.
Yeah. And not like in an American way where it's normally guys just blowing it on useless stuff. It was one of those investment type of deals where he just lost it through poor investments. If you listen to our Rocket Ishmael episode,
it's exactly like the Rocket Ishmael episode because people were telling him these were sound investments, and they were. I can't tell if they were taking advantage of him or were just
stupid.
Just so stupid because he said he lost millions of dollars in a pig farm.
Yeah.
He tried to like have like 3 pig farms, and like all of his pigs died, and like, you know what I mean? Like, so he said he lost upwards of like 6 or 7 million, pretty much all of his money. And he was feeling so bad because in a span of like 6 months, he went from financially secure for the rest of his life to his wife having to sell their loft and move into like a small apartment.
Which is crazy to think. It's like he's playing soccer not only because he loves it, but now he's playing to, you know, not be poor.
Which luckily for, I think, America and
America got to see him.
Yeah. So this is when
in 78
he comes to... It's actually interesting because he originally tries the New York Cosmos try to sell him or buy him.
Yeah, well, that's where like Pele went, right?
That's where Pele went, and that's where Beckenbauer is.
Oh,
so the guy who beats him in the in Germany World Cup, but they were talking about getting those 2 players on the same field would have been the greatest combination.
Oh, yeah,
because they're both pretty much playing total football at that time. But he went out to New York to play some exhibition matches, and he realized that they had artificial turf.
Yeah, didn't want to play on it.
And there's a great story about Pele, who ends up signing for the New York Cosmos. The first time he goes out and plays, he comes in and he's like furious in the locker room. And he's like telling him, hey, you need to bring the owner in here. The owner comes in and he can't understand him because he's speaking Portuguese.
Yeah, obviously.
And he's like yelling at him. So he could tell, he's like, get the interpreter in here. Something's wrong. And Pele's like, you turned my feet green. There's like a fungus out on your pitch. And then like they realize what he's saying. And he's like, no, that's spray paint. And they were like, what? He's like, yeah, no, that's spray paint that came off on your feet. And they like go and wash it off. And he's just oh. So then Pele signs with him right after that. But Johan Cruyff was like, and is completely right about this, is it's really bad for your knees to be playing on the...
It's horrible for your knees.
And
this is like the... AstroTurf of the late 70s and all those cookie cutter stadiums that's just like concrete, just absolute trash.
I feel like it's elementary school rugs. You know those elementary school rugs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's what they were playing on. And so he told the New York Cosmos he didn't want to play for them. And luckily the LA Aztecs came in and said, hey, we have a natural field.
Soccer teams have such great names. They're like fledgling sports leagues.
Yes.
They always have the best ones.
Almost like ABA names.
ABA names, yeah. Kentucky Colonels.
Yep. So he goes to LA. He says he liked his time in LA. He ends up winning Player of the Year in the league is called the NASL,
North American Soccer League.
He ends up winning Player of the Year with the LA Aztecs, and then has something happen that actually happens to a lot of European players.
Oh, I'll bet, dude.
They just don't understand. Is he gets traded, and he's like, "Well, I don't want to be traded," and they're like, "That
sell me.
That doesn't matter."
Yeah.
So he gets traded to the Washington Diplomats. Another great name. I think that might be one of my favorite names.
Washington Diplomats. That's a good one. I like that.
And he said he was furious at first, but once he got there, it helped him do what he did in post-career. So he ended up meeting up with some Kennedys, some Shrivers, and they talked him into putting his time into Special Olympics and kids.
Yeah, he did a lot of kids charities.
Kids
and
charities.
That's what I wrote about,
and this is where he says it started was in Washington.
Nice. Well, good for him, man. That's great.
So this trade that he was like, what the hell is this trade? Ended up being, he said, was one of the best things that happened to him, like going to America. Yeah.
And making that money.
78
was a weird year for him because he not only sits out the World Cup because of Argentina's dictatorial government, but he's almost kidnapped.
This is the interesting thing. So he doesn't play in the 78 World Cup, and when he's in Barcelona,
and this is after he retires.
This is after he retires, but still the national team still wants him.
Yep.
I think his wife was almost kidnapped. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, his wife was almost kidnapped, and the Catalonian government told him to kind of keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Because they don't want copycats.
Well, not only that, but it's like almost a Liam Neeson scenario.
Yes.
Like that's all I thought of when I was reading this.
So he's not technically allowed to tell the Dutch coach why he's not going to the 78 World Cup.
Exactly.
And he just said that he's not mentally prepared.
Well, I wouldn't want to travel overseas.
No, well, I have to agree with him. I would think you would have to be pretty much on your game, and there's no way to even focus at all.
You've almost been held for ransom. It's chill, don't worry.
Yeah, and this was like 3-4 months before. It wasn't like, this was like really right before. And he came out and said he wasn't going to play for him. They actually had a letter writing campaign to try and get him to play.
Oh my God.
And they had like hundreds of thousands of letters sent to him, and like,
I wonder how much hate mail he got. I bet he got a lot of it.
A lot of hate mail and a lot of
angry
pleading.
Dutch people. A lot of what?
Pleading. Like, please.
I will suck your dick.
Yes.
Every day on the hour.
Well, and he says this is another one of these instances that he regrets because it's the Dutch golden era. So if he had played in this team, they said that they pretty much would have won.
Oh, that's such weak sauce.
Kind of like the 74 World Cup where like 10 games, if they had played 10 games, they would have won 9 of them. You know, like he was that good and the team was that good. So we see another Dutch team fall in the finals.
Yeah, they seem to be Buffalo Billsian in that way because I had done some research.
Yeah, totally.
They just completely shit the bed when it has to happen.
Yeah, and everybody was talking about Cruyff would have made that difference.
Yeah.
Which just sucks, but understandable why he didn't go.
Oh, most definitely.
At the time, it was all hatred.
Yeah.
You know, like it was, like you were saying, just a bunch of angry Dutch people not understanding why he wouldn't go. So he's done with the American League. He's done with the North American Soccer League.
Nassau.
And he tries to go back to Spain and play in a Spanish second division.
Yeah.
But it's just all
weird.
Shitty and weird. Yeah.
But Ajax wants him back.
Yes. And Ajax says, hey, you can sell tickets. Come in and we'll let you play.
Guess who's back?
Yeah. It's actually interesting. He signs a contract that he later is the reason why they don't re-sign him, is he signs a contract that says like Ajax was selling like 15,000 tickets or whatever at the time. He signed a contract saying that every ticket over 20,000 he would get half of.
Nice.
So they say that he made ridiculous amounts of money because when they re-signed...
Oh, everyone's going to kind of want to see him.
They sold out almost every game.
Well, yeah, that's like a George Lucas with the licensing rights.
Exactly.
For Star Wars.
So when his contract comes up, Ajax is like, hey, we can't do that anymore.
You. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just giving you like millions and millions of whatever Dutch money is at that point.
Whatever Dutch money is.
So he says, fine, I don't want to play for you anymore. Feyenoord, who is another team in the Dutch league, said, we'll give you that deal.
Thank you for pronouncing that. I had no effing idea what that is.
Yeah,
like, I speak German, not Dutch. So
well, and this is why people were angry with him, was they were their rivals.
Yeah.
So he pretty much put it out there like, Ajax is screwing me over.
I'm the only reason people come to these games.
Exactly. A little story I kind of forgot about, but I have to go back on it. When Ajax, he got sold to Barcelona. His mom was a season ticket holder for like 35 years.
Please tell me she dropped them.
They moved her seat to an obscured view so that she would stop coming to the games.
Oh, weak sauce.
And he says that it's one of the things that he even looks back on. He's like, because it's obviously his boyhood club. He loves the club.
Well, his mom worked for him.
His mom worked for him. And when this happened, when he got sold to Barcelona, he was like, I cried over it.
Oh, man.
Not leaving the team, not any of that. But when his mom was like, I can't go to games anymore, he was just like, oh my God, I hate you.
She wants to go to games. You give her one in the front goddamn row.
That's what they ended up doing later. But when this happened, there was so much hatred towards him. Yeah. And you see the mismanagement in Ajax.
Oh, the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's at the top for them.
Yeah.
So back to Ajax, and then ends his career with Feyenoord. Another quick story: his father-in-law built the only retirement fund for footballers in the Dutch league.
I saw that.
No other league has a retirement fund, and a lot of players like to play a couple of years in the Dutch league just for this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. His father-in-law, actually, when he lost all that money, he actually hadn't talked to him in a couple of months, and his father-in-law was like, "You bought what? Pig farms?"
farm?
And it was like the next week, it like all went under.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be terrible.
It's got to be a terrible feeling making all this money for a decade and then losing all of it in like 6 months.
Yeah, it's like the stock market crashing and jumping out of a skyscraper.
Exactly. So playing career is over, and then he becomes a coach
At Ajax.
And this is where I feel like he puts his print, his
This is when you know, like, now that he's finally focused on not playing and just coaching, this is when he really shines as much as he did as a player.
Yes. This is when he really puts in his system that teams have for decades on. Like, it's kind of crazy how much his system is used throughout all the leagues. Like,
well, it's passed down. He's almost like Branch Rickey in the way, like, having these systems taught even to the lowest, like, minor league or club level teams.
I think Branch Rickey is one of the best analogies for this, because he changes the way youth teams are built in Ajax and Barcelona, and the way that players come through their systems. And that's exactly what Branch did. So that's a fucking great one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, I always do that too. I try and relate soccer stuff to other sports just because I have no frame of reference.
That's why I love it. I'm not going to lie. But something that he talked about was in his first season, the players weren't necessarily up to par with the system he wanted to play.
Yeah, so he kind of has to play to what his talent's available and kind of build what he wants. And he's there from 85 to 88, but you can see kind of right off the bat the good changes are being made.
They have in their first season, they have an 85 goal difference, and they end up getting second, which I think is the most.
That's insane
for a second place team. And he was talking about they just weren't good enough to implement the system that he has, that he talks about as 5 lines plus the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
It's 3 mobile defenders, which nobody was doing, 2 center defensive mids to facilitate, and essentially 4 attackers, which nobody was doing. Like, his system was so much different than everybody else's that it was just so successful. So to put it in perspective, Ajax used the exact same system that he had in place in 86 in 1995 to win the Champions League and their league. So like, he went
away, but the system didn't because it worked so well.
Exactly. So whatever coach was coming in could see how much better whatever he was doing, and just pretty much kept going from there.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes it so awesome. And by 87, they win a European Cup.
Yep.
I mean, it all, like, almost a 3-year plan to get everything right and everything in place, and Ajax wins.
Yep. And then stuff starts happening with the board again. He is so outspoken that I bet it's hard to work with him.
He's got to be a rough customer to deal with.
Yes.
Like, I mean,
that's what everybody says. It's not like a couple of people. Like, literally everybody's like, this guy's like really hard to work with. And he also hates when you don't take his opinion as fact.
Oh, geez.
So he's kind of like that guy. You know what I mean? So like, he is
one of those where you just smile and nod and kind of ignore at the same time.
Yes, but knows football completely. So when he's talking about that, you should.
Yeah, you should listen for that part.
Yes.
Most definitely.
So he goes from Ajax again to Barcelona.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he builds the dream team.
I mean, not the basketball dream team, but which played in Spain, oddly enough, but the soccer dream team.
Well, I found it interesting that they didn't call his era the dream team, which correctly, because this 5-year period...
Oh, they were lighting people up.
They were so unbelievably great that they pretty much won everything.
And they'd kind of fallen off after he left as a player.
Exactly. Again, they'd fallen off, and they had not put in this system that he was trying to put in, which was bring these youth players up and play them in different positions.
And mold them the way play to their strengths.
Yes.
Like identify how they'll fit in this system. What skills do they have?
So, this was pretty much like a perfect storm for him to do this because in when did he go to Barcelona?
89.
89. And in 88 in
Or 88,
Barcelona,
89,
no, in 88 in Barcelona, they had this huge controversy where they dismissed 14 of their 26 first team players.
Wow.
So they pretty much had like this huge exodus of players.
They just kick them off a team or sell them, or
There's a whole giant story behind it
Okay.
that maybe we'll get into one day, but it's pretty much like they were.
Is it a sex cult?
No, not a sex cult,
No,
and,
I'm joking.
and not a drug thing either. I think it
okay.
was like political and kind of other shit like that involved. It was like a lot of bullshit.
Not fun, not cheeky and fun scandal.
Exactly.
But not as disturbing as that Leicester City one we talked about.
That one was so crazy. And I remember seeing it on English Sky Sports and them just taking the piss out of it almost every single time, just like, and it's a racist sex tape. All right, I'm going to get back into Barcelona.
Let's go to Barcelona and Cruyff here. I'm sorry.
So this is a perfect storm where they pretty much kick out all of their first team players. They bring him in and they're like, bring in whoever you want.
Yeah.
So he brings in Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, I know you talked about. I saw his name. I'm like, oh, Chris has mentioned this gentleman.
They
before.
bring in Robert Koeman. I said that wrong, but he ends up being one of the best Dutch players that we see from this era. From this era, and he brings in all these players. But he brings in Pep, and Pep's the perfect example because
he was their coach later.
He's their coach later, but Barcelona wants to immediately get rid of him. So he's a midfielder, and they think that he sucks. So he sucks. He's awful in the air. He can't head the ball. And what Johan Cruyff says is he's doing everything with his feet at speed.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. So he takes Pep and moves him from the center midfield to the defense.
Okay.
And he takes another center midfielder and moves him to defense and is pretty much playing as packed forward as you can be.
Yeah.
So he takes, and it's hard to like equate it like you were trying to do with other sports, but he's pretty much like taking these players who aren't defensive and putting them in defense because they're so good at distributing the ball. And this is why we see in this 5-year period, Barca just destroy everybody. They went to 4 European finals and won 2 of them.
Yeah, and 91 to 94 they win La Liga.
Yep.
Yeah.
And and 4 La Ligas in a row.
Yeah.
So this dream team is so good. Ruud Gullit comes in and dominates. Just so good that it's sad why it's brought to an end. Yeah. So his coaching career is brought to an end because at 45, like we were talking about, he has heart problems and pretty much would have died like his father did if he didn't have the medical...
money.
The money. Yeah. And the medical science. And he attributes it to smoking a pack and a half a day.
Yeah, and that definitely will end up coming back to haunt him down the road. But after he's out at Barca, I mean, he manages the Catalonian national team.
Which was... He was talking about when he first went to Barca, he had no political interest in. And then he said when he took over the Catalonian national team, he was like, yeah, that was political. I wanted to show that because they're not a great team. They're so small.
I mean, it's just for those of you who don't know, geographically, Catalonia is just one region of Spain.
Yep.
It is arguably the most politicized region for various issues, but they've been trying for I don't know even how long to be their own country.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not gonna.
No.
But he brings this mentality to Barca that we see even today.
Yeah.
So the fruits of this labor is Lionel Messi.
It really is. And with Guardiola as his head coach.
Yes, exactly. So let me even talk about this. So
it's passed down his 14 rules.
Yeah. He has like other. Like he's technical director of Barca and he's technical director of Ajax for a bit. And he brings up this guy, Ruud Gullit, as a coach who is the coach that brings up Messi, who is the coach that brings up Pep Guardiola as his assistant.
Yep.
And it's all of this one family tree of this total football that Barcelona pretty much, I mean, you could see
it's like a coaching tree.
Yes.
Almost.
And
it really is.
Yeah, they're really one of the best teams in this era. Like, they talk about it being the second dream team.
Yeah.
Also, this is something that he absolutely railed against, was the Dutch national team went away from his system.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Spanish national team went for his system, and you could see the Spanish national team winning the World Cup in 2010, winning the Euros.
Didn't they beat the Netherlands in 2010?
Yep.
Oh, even better.
So it was even worse. So
yeah, worse. I mean, if you're him, like, you assholes.
Yes, he was very angry with that. Yeah, just a great soccer mind. Died in 2016, unfortunately.
Lung cancer.
Don't
smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, geez, man. If you're gonna smoke something, make it have a happy ending.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, one of my favorite players. People talk about him being the top 3 players. Like, it's always Pele, Maradona, and Johan Cruyff.
Yeah.
And if you're European, you say Johan Cruyff is the best. If you're Argentinian, you say Maradona's the best. If you're Brazilian, you say Pele's the best. So it kind of depends. If you're American, you also kind of...
If you're American, you go, what is soccer?
Yeah. Well, that's what Dom does.
Yeah.
Come on.
Robin Williams, what was it? A strange sport played by damaged people.
Exactly. Oh, shit. I love that. We're going to end it on that one.
All righty, everybody.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to that podcast. This is just a stock message at the end of all of our podcasts, so we hope you enjoy. You listen to whatever athlete that was. Give us a follow at the Sports Experience Podcast on Instagram. Also, myself at Quinn Comedy on Instagram. Also, DiTolla Dominic on Instagram. Just follow us all around. If you have any suggestions for any athletes you want us to do, shoot us an email at the Sports Experience Podcast at gmail.com. And we always are recording right here at Engle Studio. Thank you all very much.